Now, how is violence and nonviolence connected? Well, let's start back with the African revolts against enslavement in this country. I'm not going to give you any exact dates. We can, because I'm still trying to uncover some of this history. Have been hundreds of enslaved African revolts, violent revolts, where they chopping off the heads of they enslavers and murdering their entire families. Okay, for ever since they've been enslaving us. There have been violent rebellions. And so after a while, good white people started saying, you know what, they might come slaughter us one day, so I'm going to work against slavery. That was some of them's motivation, was to preserve their own lives. Others might have seen the inhumanity of it all and said, this is wrong, this is evil. And that's why I don't buy that crap about people say, oh, that was a different time then. That's just how things were. I've had white people say that to me, forget about slavery. That was a different time. You can't judge George Washington based off of that. That was a different time. No, it was people back then who recognized enslavement for what it is, evil, back then. So let's not act like, just cause it was 400-500 years ago that, that was different and was okay then. It wasn't immoral. That's a lie. But again, if we look at that period of enslavement, because again, remember, slavery was never abolished in the United States. Read the 13th Amendment has that big old slavery exception clause as punishment for crime, right? So those enslaved, violent African rebellions by people like Gabriel Prosser, people like Denmark Vesey and Gullah Jack, all right, many, many more, Nat Turner. We can even throw John Brown in there. He's not African, but, he killed some white folks because of slavery. They are the ones that made other people start joining these anti-slavery movements. That is how the abolitionist movement got started. Because enslaved Africans were violently resisting and killing folks and trying to, get their freedom back. So that violence caused other people who were not willing to go that far to nonviolently work towards the end of slavery. And the job is not done. I can't stress that enough. Now, let's bring it up to the quote-unquote civil rights movement. A lot of people are just fed the constant images of Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, Martin Luther King walking hand in hand with white people and other black people, clergy and whatnot, non-violently walking down the street in protest. Okay. It's other examples. John Lewis just on the bridge where was that, in Alabama? Just letting them white men just beat the crap out of them. You're fed that history, but what you're not fed is the parallel movements. You're not taught about Robert F. Williams, a former member of the NAACP who started the Black Guard right here in North Carolina, not even 30 miles from where I live right now. All right. Who trained black men and women on how to use weapons. He was former military just like myself. Was a Korean, I believe he was a Korean War veteran, if I remember correctly. See, they're not told. You're told about the Freedom Riders, the black and white people who got on these buses, to integrate the interstate busing system and how they were violently attacked. But you're not told how the Black Guard, led by Robert F. Williams, when the Freedom Riders came to Monroe, North Carolina, and were being attacked by the Ku Klux Klan and the police, beaten up, and those nonviolent people ran. And they, begged Robert Williams to protect them, and he called out the Black Guard, who came out with their rifles and protected the freedom riders. But see, you're not taught that history. You're not taught about the Black Liberation Army, that was out here, killing these cops, that was waging war against the police forces of America. You're not taught really, you know a little bit about the Black Panther Party, but you just don't know everything that they were doing. See, they not put out front. When you watch like that movie, The Butler, and I did a program because it pissed me off when I saw that how they were portraying that Black Panther Party member, that guy's son, the Butler's son, who joined the party. Oh, they show him as being disrespectful to his elders and, a loudmouth, angry black man. The Panthers cowardly ambushing police. Lee Daniels directed that film, but the script was written by a white person, a racist suspect, practicing white supremacy, demonizing the Black Panthers the same way the media demonized them back then during the day. Because we don't want you to violently resist. We want you to non-violently walk down the street and let us beat the crap out of you. But see, if it was not for that threat of violence, if it was not just for the threat of violence, but those acts of violence, if it was not for the Watts riots that they called them, but we should call them the Watts revolt, when a black person was murdered by a white cop, and they burnt down the business districts, cost them hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, cost the economy, and made the insurance companies pay out. If it was not for that violence, the nonviolent civil rights marchers wouldn't have had no cards to play. And I am totally convinced if every black person was docile and nonviolent back then, who's to say they still wouldn't be beating us down today as we nonviolently marching down the street for civil rights? Not human rights, but civil rights. We just want to be considered Americans like everybody else, And I should change my tone. I'm not trying to ridicule them because that took courage. But what I'm trying to say is that the two movements were connected. The violent movement called the Black Liberation Movement, I shouldn't call it violent, but the by any means necessary, that employed tactics of violence. If they wasn't doing what they was doing, then the nonviolent people wouldn't have been able to sit down at the table and say, look, these black folks is tired. They ain't going to keep taking this. They shooting cops. They shooting Klansmen. They burning down your cities. So I think you better pass this civil rights legislation. You're not taught that, though, are you? Martin Luther King, I tried to find a clip because I just watched it yesterday and then I couldn't locate it again. But Malcolm X said, he was being interviewed, and he said, y'all better give Martin Luther King, I'm paraphrasing, y'all better give Martin Luther King what he wants, because what he's asking for is right, and it's just. But you know what Malcolm was saying? Or you got to deal with me, and we're going to deal with you by any means necessary. So all y'all people that's out there criticizing the people that are in Missouri, the young people, the revolutionaries who are employing tactics by any means necessary, if it was not for those little minuscule acts of violence, of burning down a store, of smashing store windows, of confronting these police, instead of just marching down the street yelling, no justice, no peace. If it was not for them, the Justice Department wouldn't be on it so quickly as they are. They are the ones who got the nation's attention on this. They are the ones that forced Eric Holder, the Attorney General, to issue the statement that he made about police departments not respecting the communities that they serve. Now, of course, President Obama came out with a statement today, and I'm not even going to read it to you because it is just old watered down, bland language. But Eric Holder did say that they are not respecting. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he did say that they are not properly serving the communities. But the Supreme Court said that they are not there to protect and serve. Especially not black folks. They are there to enforce the law. And like Max said, they are there to protect the business class, the corporate class. That's what they are there for. They're just taxpayer-paid security guards for the system. They ain't there to protect and serve you. And so now that Al Sharpton is on his way down, behind closed doors, he can say, them young people ain't listening to me. They want blood. They want this cop's head on a platter. I think you better give them what they want. Y'all better not try to push this one up under the covers. Y'all better not try to, let this guy off who brutally executed this kid in the street. Or you going to have to deal with them young revolutionaries out there in the street. See what I'm saying? You don't hear members of Congress, saying that any option should be off the table. You don't hear them saying that. No, you hear the exact opposite. When they talking about invading or oppressing another country that doesn't give them what they want, let's talk about Iran, even though it's a signatory to the non-proliferation or nuclear non-proliferation treaty. They have a right to develop nuclear weapons. Hell, Israel got them. They ain't even signed the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. They try to act like they ain't got none, but they got over 400 and the world knows it. And nobody's trying to inspect them. But you say to Iran, you can't have this. And you got to let us come in and inspect to make sure you ain't making weaponized uranium or plutonium or whatever they use. No. And if you don't, we going to bomb you. There are no options off the table. No. Who's saying that? But programmed black people, African Americans. Some of them is just straight up, I'm not going to use that term house Negro because it's dated, it's outdated. Proxy racists. Some of them are proxy racists. They are willingly assisting the system of racism and oppression. But some of the other ones are just, they've been programmed to look at violence as being immoral. But yet, this government uses violence all the time. The states use violence all the time. The city uses violence all the time. If they were not employing violent tactics, we wouldn't be having this dang on conversation now, would we? We live in a police state. And simply marching and chanting no justice, no peace, and holding candlelight vigils and giving speeches and holding signs, that ain't enough, people. History proves it. If you're a student of history, then you know I'm telling you the truth. This isn't something I just made up. This isn't something that, I'm just spitting at you because I want you to see things my way. No, I do want you to see things my way, but I'm at least providing you with a historical background on how violent resistance is connected to nonviolent resistance. They're all interconnected. You can't, one without the other is ineffective. I can say, you can by any means necessary resistance method. We really don't need the nonviolent people because you can force them to come sit down at the table and come up with a peace treaty. But the nonviolent movement, you're not going to get nothing done without a threat of violence, because you ain't got no cards to play. You ain't got nobody. You can't play good cop, bad cop the way they do.